Okay, so we're selecting German recipes and we're testing them on the US market. And our proposal is to reduce the intense spices like anise by 50% and add 20% sugar to every recipe to adjust to US taste. So first of all, just get my screen back so I can see you people. Ooh, where's it gone? Oh, hang on. Oh, there. Sorry. Just want to be able to see everybody. So could we have a quick clarification round? So if anyone has any questions, maybe we'll go around on the order on my screen. So Russ, then Ted, then Lucas, then Matthew, then Sanket, then Abby. And I'll write that down. Yes, please.
Thank you. Clarifying question. How did we come up with how did the proposal come up with adding 20% sugar? Why 20%?
Okay.
Check.
Right, so I'll take that question in that case, because I was semi-ignoring it because I didn't know the answer. But my made-up answer is we scientifically looked into it, and 20% was definitely the exact amount sweeter tooth that Americans tend to have. So Matthew, outside, do you have a clarifying question? That might be quite difficult. Looks like a tricky connection. We'll skip. Lucas, I missed you off my list.
So I understand the idea of reducing sugar and spices. I think that's what we're doing, right? My question is, does that makes it cheaper for us to produce because we don't have to import the spices and we don't have to spend on sugar? The question is, if our recipes work so well in Germany, why don't we just stick with it, try it, or do a test or research with groups, different groups, because we're starting in Pennsylvania, right? So the idea of starting with Pennsylvania is just the try was just on Pennsylvania, but we're trying to implement that to the whole US marketing. How can we make sure that that is the right recipe? So that would be my concern, or just trying to clarify that.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a clarifying question quite so much, does it? It's more like a concern that might turn into an objection. Is that all right if we leave that for another round? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Anything you're really not understanding about the proposal at this stage? No? You're okay? Sanket, are you hearing me?
Yep.
Sanket.
Ah, okay, it's me. No, yeah. Okay, no clarification.
You don't have any questions, okay. And Abby, do you have any further questions?
Yeah, so are we going to reduce all the spices or just anise?
Yeah, when I looked at the note, I think there was an original statement about intense spices, which they changed to anise. So I think it's all the spices, yes. So they're just going to get less spicy and more sweet, is the proposal. So, right, having done that clarification round, I think we're now going into an objection round. Is that what people are expecting for this round?
Reactions, I think, first.
Reactions. Thanks very much. Yeah, okay, so in the same order, could we have your quick reactions to this proposal? So that's you, Russ, first.
Yeah, pass.
Okay. Matthew, I don't know if you're able to input just now.
Yes.
So we want to get just your quick reaction to the proposal.
Oh, it makes very much sense to me. I mean, if you've ever had a double salt licorice, I mean that doesn't fly on the U.S. market, but it sells well in the Netherlands and Germany. And there is a lot of anise in some of the, at least Dutch sweets that I've tried, and again, doesn't sell well on the U.S. market. So yeah, proposal makes sense to me.
Excellent. Okay, Lucas.
Yeah, don't really agree with Matthew there. I'm still concerned. If the research was done in Pennsylvania, how can we make sure that the whole U.S. will accept less sugar and less spices? So still my concern there.
Yes, definitely. Strong concern there. Okay, Sanket?
Yes, I just think this change can get us distance from our aim, that is baking German cookies. Too much changes can make us distance from our aim.
Too much change. Okay. Thank you. And how about you, Abby?
Yeah, so I think if we're trying to figure out the acceptability of German recipes, we've gone too far the other way. So my quick reaction to this is that it's too far from the original recipe.
Okay, so I'm picking up quite a lot of issues here. So shall we go into an objections round? So take the objections and see whether we can work with them. So in the same order, Russ first. Do you have an objection?
I do have an objection that I think this recipe is not close enough to the original and is too sweet, that there's too much sugar for what our aims represent. Check.
Right, thank you. Matthew, do you have an objection?
No, I'll continue to don my quintessential American hat and object to nothing that adapts other countries' recipes to our taste.
Thank you. Lucas?
Yes, and my concern is that the research did in Pennsylvania might not apply to the whole US. So that's my...
Okay, thank you. Sanket?
My objection is with the team about changing the original recipe. I'm not feel very comfortable for too much changing only to adapt the US marketing. And it's basically adding sugar. So I'm not comfortable with that.
Okay, thanks. And Abby, how about you?
Yeah, my objection is to the spice reduction. I think 50% is far too much. We need to try something a bit bolder and really figure out the German cookie acceptability at the local farmers market. Check.
Okay, thank you. And I'm just taking off my facilitator's hat for a second, which I forgot to do before. I object because I think that we should stay closer to the original and not add sugar where, you know, the Germans don't need it, so why should we? Okay, so we have got 4 or 5 objections. And my sense is that they're all kind of pointing in the same direction. Some people are worried about more adding sugar, and some people are worried about taking away spice and the sense of the traditional nature being lost. And Lucas, yours was more that the research wasn't really complete. Is that right? Yeah, that there hadn't been enough research done. You're away now, Matthew. Okay, bye-bye. Nice to see you. So, does anybody have a way of encapsulating these objections into a kind of new take on this proposal? I'm just thinking that it shouldn't be too difficult, given that our objections are quite aligned, to create a new version of the proposal.
Objection. I have one.
Go on then.
Okay, so the US market doesn't know our product in Germany. So my idea is that we create a new name for it and try it out with this proposal recipe, and we give samples to each state and ask for feedback and how people feel in different states, or feel at least in a group of states with a different name of the product, so we don't mess up with our original recipe from Germany, and give it a try, see what people think. If it succeeds in the level we expect, we can then move on to start trying to sell them in all different states, or at least on the states that have a high level of acceptance.
Okay, so what I've written from that is we create a new name for a product with the recipe from the proposal. So this is the adapted recipe, and give samples to testing groups in each state to try it out under a new name, so we can test it against the original response to the recipe. Okay. Does anyone have any clarifying questions on that, or does everyone understand the new proposal? Abby has a question.
I have a question. So our aim was cookies for the local farmers market rather than all the local farmers markets. So I'm wondering how many states our local farmers market operates in, and whether the scope has gone a little bit beyond the original aim.
And how local it is. Right, so that, yes, okay. That wasn't, it sounds more like a concern to me than a clarifying question.
Well, the question is how broadly distributed is our local farmers market?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And Lucas, you do need to remember that it is just in our town. I was just trying to, make it easy for us.
I thought the name of our brand was Local Farms Market, and was spread all over the US. So it wasn't just really Local Farms Market. So sorry. I don't know which one we are playing here.
I'm happy to go with Ted's. It's in 3 states, which basically means like 3 Britons, as far as we're concerned.
No, what I was thinking, what I was imagining, you're right, this is not very clear, this is good feedback. What I was imagining that, a farmer's market is close to, like, in driving distance from, customers from 3 states, something like that. Don't overthink it.
Okay. Right, so we're just checking for clarifying questions. So this is anything you don't understand from Lucas's proposal. Okay, we understand it, I think. So shall we go round to quick reactions again? So Russ?
No objection.
Okay. Lucas, do you have any quick reactions to your own proposal?
No, I'm good.
Sanket?
For me, it seems to be expensive to create a new project and to sell and test.
Yeah, Abby?
Could you restate Lucas's proposal? I think we need the sort of reminder.
So we create a new name for our product with the adapted recipe from the proposal, and give samples to testing groups in each of our 3 states to try it out. It has a new name, so they won't associate it with our original product, but we can test that against, we can basically see which one people prefer.
Okay, so my quick reaction to that, thank you, is that I'm not clear on the aim of doing that, whether we are trying to get sort of a German recipe that will work for the locals farmers market, because that's our aim. We're bringing in something for German recipes that we're testing, or whether we are just trying to find something generally that's more suitable, or is this purely just the research? So it's just almost blind testing 2 different things just to help us then adapt what the recipe will finally look like. It feels like it could be sort of a mixture of all of that. Check.
Okay, thank you. And my quick reaction, taking my facilitator hat off, is, yeah, well, I guess if we could do that fairly quickly, and maybe we could, given that, you know, we have this already existing distribution little network. It feels like it could end up being quite a faff, but perhaps if it was a quick thing, it would be worth doing. So, Lucas, could you respond to the question there from Abby?
Sure. I think question from Abby is perfect. Of course, this is an exercise, but the idea is that we are not clear on what we're doing. So I think what we could probably do is stop for a bit on the strategies to do something that we're not sure what we're doing, and go back to what are we trying to achieve here. I think that's clever. It's very clever, and that something needs to be done. So we in the exercise right now, and if you could remember, Ziva, what is the exercise exactly? What is the point of this? It was just trying to reduce a few things on the recipe and add a few extras, and then test it out in the US. So my proposal, as hearing what Abby said, is that we put a stop on it right now, go back and discuss what are our aims in doing so, and depending on the aims that we try it out, or the aim we are trying to work on, it will give a different result on what we're doing here. So I could remove my proposal, and for us to discuss, sorry about that, for us to discuss the aim of the group.
Okay. So the proposal's been removed before we can vote on it. I have a proposal that's come up that's somewhat based on Lucas's proposal that I'd like to share with you, which is that we, so our aim is to select originally German recipes and test them on the US market. And the worries from the objections was most of the worries were that we were doing something that was less original, and we were kind of assuming that Americans would prefer more sugar. But why don't we do a version of Lucas's thing and have a test taste? If we have some core groups that we can test stuff with, why don't we give them the original recipe and the new recipe and ask them which they prefer? That's my proposal. So I would like to have any clarifying questions? Anyone not understanding any part of that? Nope, everyone understands. And quick reactions, Russ?
I like the idea of doing the testing, assuming that we haven't done that already, of testing the original recipe against the proposed recipe. So given that, I think doing a quick test is a great idea.
Okay, yeah, according to our aim, testing is part of our aim. So yeah, I assume we haven't tested. Lucas, do you have a quick reaction?
No.
Nothing more to say. Sanket?
Yes, for me, it's still changing our traditional recipe, and I'm not comfortable with changing.
You don't want to change it at all?
I would like us to stay on traditional.
Okay, thank you. And Abby?
Yeah, so okay, quick reaction. So we'd have the traditional recipe there as well as this new one. Perhaps we could make a little tiny amendment then. My quick reaction is perhaps we want something from my original point that was a little less extreme. So we could go for the original, something with 20% less intense spices, and then the 50% less, and then we'd get more data, because otherwise we've gone from like completely original to extremely modified with nothing in the middle. Check.
Okay, so the modified proposal is we taste test with our target demographic 3 versions: the original, a slightly modified, and a quite strongly modified version, and we ask people what they think. So objections. Russ, do you have objections?
No objection.
Lucas, do you have an objection?
No, I don't. Sounds good.
Sanket, do you have an objection? Remembering this has to be within your range of tolerance.
Yes, and I don't have objections because the original recipe are gonna be testing on the market. So.
Abby, do you have an objection?
No, I'd consent to that.
Right. And I don't have an objection either. So we have a proposal where we have a new policy. Yay! Celebration!